Good afternoon, I'm Corporal Ray. Today we're going to be talking about leadership and the Army profession. Um, the risk today is going to be low. We're in a classroom environment. If you have to use the restroom, they're going to be in the back. If there's a fire, we have to exit the building for any reason, the exit's going to be in the back of the building as well. Make sure you guys are drinking water, and let's get started. So the topic is, again, Army leadership. What we're going to be going over is the definition of leadership in the Army. We're going to go over the three different levels of leadership, and then we're going to go over the authorities and limitations you have as a leader. So the Army definition of leadership is the process of influencing people by providing purpose, direction, and motivation to accomplish the mission. The purpose of leadership is to make choices and have direction for the organization. So as a leader, you have various different responsibilities. You have soldiers appointed below you. You have to take into consideration their morale and their everyday life on top of what the actual mission is, and go off of that. So being a leader, the different levels of leadership and leadership in general helps create organization and not a bunch of chaos within an organization. So whenever we talk about leadership, leaders are held to a higher standard than their subordinates, because they're the ones that have to teach and mentor those subordinates. The three different levels of leadership: you have direct, organizational, and strategic. Direct leadership is your face-to-face first-line supervisor. These are going to be the guys or gals that you work with every day. These are going to be the ones that teach and mentor you. These are, you go to the field or something like that, you're going to be with these people. It's a very small group, like tens to hundreds of people. Again, you work with these people every day. It's very small. The next level is going to be your organizational. These are going to be leaders that are appointed above hundreds to thousands of people. They're the ones appointed above different direct lines of leadership. So you have like battalion, and then you have different companies. The companies are going to be your direct leadership, and then your battalion is going to be the organizational leadership. So it's a ladder. All the companies report to the organizational leadership, and then above organizational you have your strategic leadership. These are going to be your general officers, colonels. These are going to be the guys that are receiving information from like Secretary of Defense, from the president, from the president and the Pentagon. These are going to be the guys that are getting all the big time, what's going on in the world, where do we need to send people, stuff like that. The way it works is you have your company leadership, and normally it's like platoon sergeant to commander and first sergeant. They report to the organizational leadership, which will be your sergeant major, your battalion sergeant major or commander, or or your brigade command sergeant major, stuff like that. They're gonna report to them. And then your organizational, your command sergeant major, your colonel or your lieutenant colonel, they're gonna report to the colonel and general officers appointed above them. And it's like a big tree branch that keeps it's like a tower that comes down. And at the bottom of that tower you have your soldiers, and then at the top again you have your general officers, stuff like that. So those are the different levels of leadership. The other thing The next thing we're going to talk about is going to be the responsibility, authority, and the limitations you have as a leader. So every leader obviously has responsibility. In the Army, normally it's your soldiers. Like team leaders, your responsibility is your soldiers. You have to look after your soldiers. You have to push information out to your soldiers. You have to make sure they're wherever they need to be on time. You have to keep up with your soldiers, make sure they're not getting in trouble, stuff like that. There's various different responsibilities you have for these soldiers. The authorities you have, again, you have to instill discipline, train, stuff like that. So when instilling discipline, if a soldier's not acting right, you have the authority to use punitive action like corrective training or counseling this individual and coming up with a plan to make sure he or she doesn't act like that again. When doing this, you have to know limitations to doing this. You can't, if you're using physical corrective action, you can't push a soldier past their limitations and injure them because it takes them out of the fight. And then you would be subject to punitive action. And taking a soldier out of the fight, the Army's about numbers, and now you're taking numbers off, and it's making the overall readiness for the organization go lower and lower for stuff that can be avoided. Counseling soldiers, you can pull them in, you can tell them, hey, this is what you did wrong, this is the plan that we have, that we're going to fix it, we're going to abide by this plan, and then you have to check up on that until you see that whatever the incident was, the soldier learned from it and is pushing past that. So these are the different limitations that you have. You can't subject somebody based off of their sex, race, religion, anything like that. Obviously that violates EO, which is AR 600-20, Chapter 6. You don't want to violate that. You don't want to be subject to something like that. You can't use that to punish somebody. There's all kinds of different limitations that you have. Obviously everybody wants to be treated with respect, so even as a leader, you have to treat with your soldiers with respect. So that is the end of this briefing. We're going to do a quick AAR. Does anybody have anything that they would like to add or use to improve the overall of this class? Does anybody have anything any sustains or anything they liked about the class? Alrighty, that concludes my class on Army leadership and the Army profession. Thank you for attending. Do you have any questions?